We're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully all of you have gotten pizza and everything like that. Today, Deloitte is taking time out of their day to come talk to us. So, very excited to hear from them and all the opportunities. So I'm going to go over a quick couple general group things. One, just a reminder, the membership dues are going to be due October 1st. So we have a meeting October 1st, so the dues are going to be due that meeting. The next day, we put in orders for the shirts, so if you do not pay your membership dues, you won't be eligible for the trips we take, and you also won't be getting a polo. So please try to get your money in as soon as possible.
These are top grade polo shirts,
they're super nice polos that Dr. A is funding quite a bit of, so a big thank you to him for that specifically. So. With that note, our East Lansing trip is coming up. It's November 13th. Right. November 13th, so if you guys are interested in that, we're going to have a sign-up sheet up here. Just write down your name and email, and what we're going to be doing is we're doing a sign-up for that. We'll be emailing you guys out links for the registration form. You have to register on ASUG's website, and then you have to register for that event. So those are two things you'd have to do before we go. I think we're getting a bus this year.
Yes, Blue Lake Charter.
Perfect.
So you don't have to worry about transportation. Just be here before the bus leaves.
So that's
and then wearing your shirt as well.
Yeah. So that's another reason you need the membership fee, because you'll need that polo for that meeting.
I'd love to see 30 plus students go.
Yeah. Like last year, CMU had
22.
And it was a great representation of us. We looked very good compared to the other universities. So, it's a great meeting. You get to talk to some of the leaders in industry. They feed you. It's an absolutely phenomenal time. With that said, we got the opportunity to go to the Chicago meeting this year. That is a week before the East Lansing one, November 6th. So it's also a Thursday. The Chicago meeting is something we haven't done, but we've gotten an opportunity to speak at it, so we're very excited. If you are interested in going to Chicago, our plans as of right now, we have a bus for it. We're going to have to leave a Wednesday night. It's sounding like stay the night in a hotel and then go to the meeting in Chicago. It's going to be kind of an all-day thing, but it should be an amazing experience. We might have to limit people on that, so if you sign up for the East Lansing, I'm going to send out, with the email instructions, I'm going to send out a registration form for the Chicago trip. And if we get just a ton of people who are also interested in the Chicago trip, we'll start taking by seniority and things like that. But we'd love to go down to Chicago and have a big representation from CMU. So,
again, we'll sponsor a bus. Your cost would be 4 of you splitting a room. And we're going to segregate it according to gender.
Yes, of course.
And nobody gets an extra key.
Yeah.
Oh, nice business. Anyway, we're looking at $40 a piece. So we've got $160 pooled in to cover the expense of the room, and it would be at a Marriott. We've got Marriott located, so we would have the bus that would take us there. Again, we would leave right after our Wednesday night meeting and on the bus and rock and roll and let the driving take care of by them. And then they'll get us to the location in the morning, and at the end of the day, we'll be transported back here to the parking lot. That's the plan. We just have to be able to execute it based upon your participation. So again, I would love to see CMU strongly represented there. We've got officers all speaking, and it's really great that the leadership at Chicago, Illinois, ASUG has looked at us and said, we would like to have your people speak and present. So it'll be a dynamic presentation, but I'd again love to see 20 people there. So shock and awe would be this fall. Let's do it.
Good opportunity, especially if you've never been to Chicago. So
we'll just have time to sightsee.
No,
Not a lot of playtime because we're coming home that night.
No.
Because we gotta Friday.
You get to see going into the building and coming out. They got to drive. So we'll have those sign-ups up here. Again, if you guys need to pay, just come up to us after the meeting. We'll get that all sorted out. Try to get your payments in as soon as possible. I think last time we checked, we had 140 some people registered and like close to 40 or 50 paid. So there's a lot of you who are.
You hear that, Deloitte? Over 140 members.
Oh, wow.
Strong.
Awesome.
So I won't take up any more of your time. So without further ado, guys, Deloitte.
Alright, thanks everyone for joining. Looks like this is a lot of people than we anticipated. It's always good to be back on campus. I'm Shalini Parwancha, ERS Senior Consultant with Deloitte. Have been with the firm. Just finished my 4 years, going into my 5th year. Feels like I'm old because I graduated 4 years ago. So here's our agenda for today. We're just going to have introductions. Going to talk about Deloitte culture and community, what we actually do. Everybody here, starting out here, is from AERS Advisory Service Line. And we're going to talk about a little about our risk and controls overview, the SAP projects that Deloitte has, and some recruiting tips. I have Kelly Mahoney from our Deloitte, who's our recruiter, so she's here if you guys have any questions on recruiting or any other questions related to it. And I already gave my introduction. I'm Shalini Parwancha, Senior Consultant with Deloitte, graduated 2010 May with a major in MSIS. I have my SAP Top 10, and I've been involved in the AITP and CBA student programs.
Hi everyone, my name is Hang Lee. I graduated with 2 different degrees at Central. My undergrad was in finance, and then I also went back on my MBA in accounting. I finished my 2 years with Deloitte, so I'm going on a 3rd year right now, and I'm also on the ERS advisory technical risk. I've been involved, back when I was at Central, I was involved with Better FSI and AITP as well.
Hey, my name is Bengar Qasim. It's good to be back home. I graduated from the MSIS program in the fall of 2012. Had a brief talk with a firm. Now I'm with Deloitte. I clocked 1 year 2 weeks ago. Excited. Yeah, while I was on campus, I was involved with the SAP user group, the AITP, and the CBA, that's the Graduate Student Association of CBA.
Hi, my name is Andrew Kabe. I graduated in May 2013. I'm also ERS. I'm a consultant, tech risk. Some of the things I was involved in, I was accounting and information systems double major, and also did the Tier 10 as well. So I was part of the SAP student user group. I was in Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity, Leadership Safari, and I did new venture competition twice.
I'm not on there. I'm a special guest. My name is Gabrielle Enrita, and I am an ERS consultant as well. I graduated in May of 2012 from my Master of Science in Information System program, and
So you organized a trip. Which trip did you organize?
Chicago.
Chicago. Oh,
Chicago, and half of
good.
the one to Missouri, I think.
Awesome. That's why they hired you, right?
I think so. Talk to Dr. Ray, he's very helpful. So, and then my CMU student organization involvement, I was in SAP user group, AITP, and I was also in Phi Chi Theta business fraternity.
And as Dr. Ray said, this is always helpful to have you guys in any of the student groups. We definitely look for those. And this is going to be like, obviously want you guys to be more interactive. Anybody that's going to ask a question is a goodie for you guys. So you can stop if you have any questions as we go. Just didn't want it to be like a presentation where everybody's focused. So feel free to jump in if you have any questions and we can definitely stop.
All right, so There's four main service lines in Deloitte, four main kind of companies. You have audit and ERS, which is what we are, which is the actual audit of the information systems for the IT audit. And there's also audit itself, which is actually the financial statements. You have consulting, which would be more of actually implementing SAP itself. You have financial advisory, and then you have tax. And those are the four specific subsidiaries that go with those groups. And so one of the great things about Deloitte is that you don't get in many other companies is really that you have the chance to really drive your own career. That's one thing at Deloitte they talk about all the time. So you might start in one field, decide that's not the best fit for you, and go into something over here that's completely different. And that's something a lot of companies really don't offer you. So let's say I like doing ERS consulting. I'm working with the audit team. I'm working with actual clients going to their sites. And I decide that because of my background in SAP, I'm not using enough. I reach out to the partners, and I can actually be part of an SAP implementation through the network that I build. And so it really allows you to be the driver's seat of your career, and as you progress through the firm.
Question.
Sure.
So how much training does the company provide you then if you want to switch like that? Do they run you through some training?
Yes. We have a lot of trainings available at any time, online, or we also have a Deloitte University as well. We're going to get into that more into the slides. So we're all about learning, all certification, what kind of training we provide to you to get you ready for a new client or a new service line.
I'm also going to touch that on that.
It's very good stuff.
Great. Because I know we do a lot of training programs, as Ella mentioned, so every summer we have technical trainings. When we're not busy, so we do every summer technical trainings that everybody's allowed to go. So you get to pick which technical training you want to go, and you can always attend technical trainings every summer.
Based on your clients.
Thank you.
Hey, my question is, what if your position, where you want to go to, probably that's your field, what if there's no position available? Will they create it for you?
Deloitte is so big, you'd probably have to move. But you have to think about there's a Deloitte in every major city in the country, and then you have to think worldwide as well. So if they don't have anything that actually fits your needs, I'd be pretty surprised.
I'm sure we can find you another project. If not in the Detroit office, we can definitely try and pick you up with the right person that you're interested in.
And I can chime in a little bit on that. So advisory is unique because it's a national practice. So there are some positive and negatives to that in the sense that if we do not have what you need in Detroit, they will find a client for you to work on, they'll find a project for you to work on because it's unique that it is national. So most of you have traveled to different offices, different locations. We have a few of one of our directors and senior managers right now is in Hawaii working on a unique project, just because the skill set they had fit a need. But then we also have someone switching into cyber risk, which is still in the advisory bucket, mind you. And because they are doing SAP right now, we're really interested more on the security and privacy space. So they help them get into that opportunity starting in November. So there are a lot of opportunities. The biggest thing to do is communicate it. Get your feet wet a little bit, right? So you feel good about making the move and making the decision, but there's a lot of opportunity there.
Before we start back, would you like water bottle, pen, or a notebook, or an M&M's, or jelly beans? Notebook. How about you?
Water bottle. And jelly beans. Thanks, is water bottle. He's never let me sure.
Nice
Okay,
job.
and probably something everybody's pretty interested in is actually the benefits you get while working with Deloitte. One of the big things that really attracted me to Deloitte was you start off the bat with 5 weeks vacation, and counting also the 10 holidays that you get. So that's something Deloitte, you work hard, but at the same time, they expect you to take time off. And I actually had a manager put 30 minutes on my schedule for a meeting just to make sure I did take time off because I was working too much. So that's actually something they take pretty seriously. Some of the great things that they have is a health and fitness subsidiary. You get $500 to go to maybe a treadmill, gym membership and things of that nature. There's also tuition, and if you want to do your any certification while working with Deloitte, so you want to do your CISA, or if it's any audit, you want to do CPA, they will pay for that, and also there's maybe bonuses that go along with getting that certification, because education is something as being in consulting, being in a field that constantly changes, they want to make sure that you're part of the best. That's a good question. Okay.
And I just wanted to add about the alternate travel option. That's something I personally like. If you're going to be traveling out of the state for like 2 weeks. I always travel and I travel for 2 weeks. I can always have my husband go travel with me the weekend. So you always have that flexibility when you're gone for 2 weeks rather than coming home. You can have an alternate travel option. You can have like somebody from your family go and stay with you the weekend. That's something I personally like.
Kind of have a very cool story. I worked with a manager and found out that he took his family on vacation to Hawaii for free.
Because of the alternate
Because
travel?
of the alternate travel and all that. That would be pretty cool.
Because then when you're traveling too much, you can always rack up your Marriott or Delta points, which you can always use for your personal travel.
Fly.
Yeah. For the tuition assistance, I'm wondering, like, if after I join the Deloitte, if I want to do the MBA course or something, is it fully reimbursed, or have to be like certain classes or something like that?
Is the MBA fully reimbursed?
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw Luke's over here.
That's probably the first question.
Generally, no.
Okay.
So, and it really depends on your program. So, depending on what route you go, 150 credits is just mandatory regardless. So, it's required that you come in with some master's knowledge or whatnot. Advisory, usually not so much. So, advisory is a really big thing because you can come in with 120 credits and get a certification that would apply directly to what you do every day. But down the road, once you have some experience, if you are someone that comes in after 120 and decide you would like to get a master's that would apply to what you do every day, they're definitely on board with helping with tuition. Just not right off the bat. Does that answer that?
Yes.
So they want to have you some time invested, but then we're happy to help with that. I believe it's on a grading scale. So like you get a certain amount of reimbursement for 4 points, certain amount for 3.5, and so on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What if we get certificates like before we get involved with Deloitte? Do we get reimbursement? Like pass the CPA before getting involved with?
You can, if you actually like had an offer from Deloitte and decided to take an exam, then yeah.
You get a bonus if you pass CPA the first year, and then also a lower bonus the second year, but still a bonus. And then all the expenses, I believe, will be reimbursed.
The CPA,
associated
yes.
with the CPA exam, the cost of taking the exam, also the materials, also reimbursed.
We actually have a CMA graduate, Teresa Correlate, that just joined us. He got his, CISA certification prior to joining. And right now, they're actually processing his bonus.
So depending on the certifications that you get, CPA is a little bit different than other certifications. In advisory, we have what's called CISA, which is Certified Information Systems Auditor. That's the most common one that we take. If the system is not the same, but we still get bonus if you take it within the first 1 or 2 years.
Good bonus.
Yeah. And I think it's common to hear about that we reimburse for the CPA, but we reimburse for the other certifications too. Not just one. Yeah.
And small advice, if you're planning to take your certifications, do it before you join Deloitte.
Yes.
So it's easier.
Yeah. That's the best way to do it. It's before you join Deloitte.
So you're not juggling between working and trying to get your certification.
It's a full-time studying.
So.
It's not.
Any other questions?
Alright, so we kind of touched learning and development there, but one of the cool things that Deloitte does offer is around the summertime when it's not a busy season, there's tons of opportunities to go and learn, like the basically ins and outs of all the applications that you have been auditing. So I know I had the opportunity to go to Chicago and actually do like an SCP security boot camp for like 4 or 5 weeks. I got over at 5, and then after that I got to go explore the city. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities they give you, and also tons of like online videos you can go, and then basically any kind of maybe application or any kind of like risk or any like maybe practice you want to go into. I also have a counselor that actually helps me through making sure that kind of guides me like make sure I have the right education and the right training for like the career that I want and like the jobs that I want as well. And go along with the education, we have like Deloitte University. And I don't know if anyone's ever like, looked up Deloitte University at all, but it's honestly one of the most incredible places I've ever been to in my entire life. Like I thought Deloitte would be like that 24/7, but it's just for a week. It's pretty cool. You're there and you have like a 5-course like chef. They actually take culinary students from a university nearby, and like food is just incredible.
It's
Yep.
5-star hotel, nothing compared to Deloitte University.
Like, and the
I'm not
technology
kidding.
there is awesome. You have like touchscreen walls and the up to date like everything, and it's basically if you want like a nerd central, there you go. Right there. It's
Free
crazy.
Starbucks.
Yeah, free Starbucks, free food. Every floor has snacks from each. So we have cities on every floor that we make like a break room, and then there is a snack from those cities on that in that particular room.
Of course, San Francisco is the most popular because that's where Ghirardelli is.
Sorry, oh, the big jerky one. Where is that one?
Oh,
I think it's on the fifth floor.
yeah, Texas.
somewhere.
Where's the site located?
Texas.
Texas, yeah, Texas.
Texas?
Westlake, Texas.
Westlake.
Westlake.
I think what's really neat about this place too is not so much, I mean, the facilities gorgeous. You walk around and you really can't explain it until you're there. It doesn't really do justice, but we bring in CEOs, CIOs. We do a Dean Summit training there for school deans. George Bush and Tony Blair were there today for our PPD summit, which is pretty neat. So it's just a great opportunity. We do business chemistry trainings there. We do all sorts of different trainings. So it's a really great venue for us to help push what we care about the most forward and help our professionals really learn a lot. Then you get to spend a lot of time with each other, which is a big thing. We really pride ourselves in our people, and we have a barn. And it really is a barn, but it's much nicer than a barn. And there's shuffleboard karaoke, which people still sing, and I don't know why, but and it's a really, really neat place. The best time to be there is during a football game or a basketball game, which is always crazy because you manage to get the worst rivals there. But it's a really amazing place. If you have the opportunity to go, I would certainly take this up on it.
And you're training with kids all across the country. So like in your classroom, you'd be like the only one there from Detroit or wherever you decide to go, and you would come like Texas, like New York, New Jersey, California. So right there, that's where you start to build your network day one, and then you come back like once a year or multiple times a year for more training and continue to build your network to kind of really figure out your career. What is advisory? What advisory does is manages the risk, continue to build value for their company. So I think the best.
Within advisory, there's two different groups. There's business risk and there's technology risk. Business risk will focus more on the controls around the business cycles in business. For example, revenues, treasury, taxes, all those cycles. We test controls around those cycles to see how well they have the environment in place and how well they secure their process and making sure that personnel are following the procedures according to the policy. On the other side, technology risk is that you will be testing the environment around the IT system that the company has to make sure that the information is secure and that the information that comes from those systems that got pushed out to the financial statement is then the confidence to be more accurate.
Any questions on that? I know all of you live in what?
Process controls and access controls.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Any IT system that the company has, we all folks fall under the technology risk. That's what we do. Any company that has IT, we work on their IT controls.
You can skip that.
We have too much information.
It just goes over it. Alright, I think we'll understand more as we go.
Okay. So one of the cool things is you're always be at the client site. And so that goes like we were saying, be traveling. Like I can't tell you like how many times I've been into like the IT director has been on the one side and the manager of like an application manager never on the other side. And I ask them questions and how they do their job in order like to our standards. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's pretty cool like to learn from those people, to interact with those people on a daily basis. And just going from client site, learning how an actual infrastructure is set up, testing that infrastructure, and moving on to another one, is you just learn so much information in such a quick time. Like I can't believe I've been there for a year. I've already audited I think 9 to 10 clients. So that's definitely one of the really cool aspects you get at working for the consulting firm. And also, there's many different industries you can go into because obviously each industry can have different applications and different processes. I've done mostly healthcare so far since I started. So I do a lot of like applications that are like the PeopleSoft, usually the GL, maybe HealthCrest or something like that, be premium revenue. And some of the processes I might go over is like claims and premium revenue process, making sure the actual like applications like we're paying the people what you say, like what the actual claim is. So, and then you can go to like auto industry or technology industry, and it's like a completely different process there. So I don't know if anybody else has different experiences besides healthcare. Cool. One of the things that advisors different from consulting is one is like you actually don't really do more of the implementation. You do more like security around controls for like the SAP or like whatever application you're going over, and making sure like the risks are met. One thing as well is you're always constantly working in a team. And a cool thing as well is you're most likely be in different teams for different like projects. So you're constantly meeting new people and working with different people all the time. And the work-life options. One thing that I really like is once you kind of get established in the firm, you really can kind of like work at your own pace, depending if your manager trusts you or not. So like if you really have a day where you're not feeling so well, you have the opportunity to work from home if you don't have any big client meetings that day. Or if you're kind of a morning person or a night person, really at the bottom line is if you can get your work done, the amount of hours that you do it in or how like the time frame that you're in really doesn't matter as much, which is something that's going to be different from like a 9-to-5 job where you're expected to be there at 9 and you're probably leaving at 4:30. So it's really kind of like kind of like a work-life fit that really meets you. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility around that. When I joined the firm, I had a discussion and I told them I have a young family, and right now we want to have limited travel. So for the next 2 years, I've been placed on local projects, so I have time to spend time with my young family. I've got 2 daughters, and they want daddy around all the time. So that's a lot of flexibility depending on your specific situation. You can always walk around it and get where you want.
And they can switch to just say that you're a female, that you get in there, you're single, and then you get married, and then you get pregnant, right? You were from 100% utilities, you can switch that down to what? 50, 60%, so you can be home with your, young baby or whatever. So it's very flexible in a way of like, the hours that we work and whatnot.
What would the average number of hours be in a typical work week?
It really depends when, like we have a busy season, which means most clients year end is 12/31.
Mm-hmm.
So basically from now until busy season, you're expected to work 50 hours.
50.
So outside of busy season, on average, yeah. So like if you have more clients, you have more work, which is a good thing because at the end, utilization is actually how much like you actually bill towards the client. So that's revenue gained for Deloitte. So utilization, how many hours you work, this comes back to you at the end of your evaluation.
It actually depends on the clients you're working. For example, I work on a lot of different clients that are like a 9:30 year-end client, 12:31. So it depends on what client you're working on. You might be busy the end, but it depends on when the year-end for the client is.
But also depends on the group you're working with. If you're doing more design and implementation, it might require more traveling, more hours. If you're doing, working on maybe internal control clients, then you work with the client. The client comes to work 9, you go work 8. That's the
So I was just curious if there was any areas where, well, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of year-round, if you were going to average 70 hours a week year-round or whatever happens.
It typically depends on the business. Yeah.
40 to 50.
Summer is like our slow time. That's why we try to do 40 hours and then do 80 of the trainings so we can catch up like technical trainings. That's what we do during the summers.
Yeah, this summer I was definitely around 40, and then like last fall I was around 45, 50. So I was on a little bit smaller clients that really demand more of the hours. So. Any other questions over any of that?
Yes, I have. This is within your group. If you were on like the implementation team, so an SAP implementation, I assume the hours and that kind of stuff vary.
Yes.
I mean, so within your organization or within your team, at that kind of time, if you were on an implementation team, do you have a guess of the kind of hours those guys work?
We work with them a
20
lot.
hours a day.
I mean, we work with them, a couple of them a lot of times, and it's around the same hours. And like I said, it depends on the client, depends on what we're doing, depends on it's specific to the client location.
And again, with like, you know, what phase are they in? And like, you know, if they're about to be go live, then of course it's going to be what, 70, 80 hours a week. You know, it really depends on what client and what phase they're in. And then after implementation, of course, it's going to start. So it really varies. We can't really say, oh, it's 8 to 5, it's 40 hours throughout the year. In Deloitte or Big Four, there's no such thing.
And as Andrew mentioned, the good thing is our PTO, we have 5 weeks of PTO. I know a lot of people who work on SAP implementations, once they're done with their implementation, they take like a week off because they have like 5 weeks of PTO.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to use it. And we have a good thing about Deloitte is that you can roll over your PTO from the prior year so that you don't lose them. So we'll make sure that you don't lose your PTO. People try to schedule PTO like a month in December too, if needed. So we always try to make sure that people take their PTO.
We're pretty good at that. We're pretty good at making sure that they're taking things.
Just, as you asked about the number of hours, I would also remind you that if you're having fun, the number of hours really is irrelevant. It really is. If you're enjoying what you do, 50, 60 hours a week is not an issue. And then you have fun when you have fun. You work hard when you work hard, you play hard when you play hard. So,
No, that's a great point.
if you hate going to work, then you count how many hours you work. If you don't hate going to work, it's easy.
So I'm not in advisory, I'm in recruiting, but I've taken a lot of time to shadow all the teams. And I've shadowed tax teams and audit teams, and you know, what you pick is definitely what's right for you. But I can tell you when I leave the advisory teams, I'm not really ready to leave. I've sat on cyber workshops where they've talked about smart grid implementation. I've sat on an SAP implementation for a chemical company. I sat in on it felt like a boardroom meeting at one of our automobile clients. But after that, they're like, all right, let's all go do something. Let's go do something together. And I think that's very unique. When I leave tax meetings, they're like, okay, see you tomorrow. Bye. Audit, it's been sometimes the same way, and I think that's really important because they seem to really enjoy it. And I know I was like, oh shoot, I think I picked the wrong major. Because I wasn't quite ready to leave. And so I think that's
We have a very good program here.
And so I know. I've been wooed all day, trust me. So I think that's very unique because we do work a lot, and but we are very flexible at the same time. I have never heard someone say, "Oh no, you can't leave early because you've worked all week." Never, ever. And I think it's really important. I mean, I don't think anybody bat an eye at you guys coming to help today. So
I didn't even sign up for it. Just show up.
there we go.
And the good thing is that even if you're working late, we still have like team lunches or team dinners. So if we're staying like past late, we'll make sure that we go out as a team for dinner. So we'll try to make sure that we have some communication and then spend more time with the teams.
Yeah, team building is very important to us because working with people that you like is more important than the work itself at times. Like if you work with someone and they're willing to help you, the work is so much easier that way. So Deloitte it's really strong.
And one thing to keep in mind too is when, especially doing like more of the ERS consultant like we are, you're changing companies every 4 to 5 weeks. So you're constantly changing pace, different applications, different people. So it's almost like starting over. So you're never complacent. It's not like you're stuck in one place and then when you get like that boring, like doldrums, like you look at the clock all day, you're just like, all right, like it's 5 o'clock already, crap, I still have all this work to do. So.
And that's one thing I really enjoy about my job. I'm not doing the same job, same thing every day. I have like different clients, different works. That's what I love about my job.
Challenges.
Oh, very different challenges. All right.
Any other questions?
All right, and this is some of the focuses that you have here at Deloitte. Like we kind of talked about the technical risk. That's more the controls over the application itself. Those are more the things you look at: the change control, the access security, the passwords of the applications. The business risk is more of the processes around the processes at the company. So, like in healthcare, it's going to be about claims, the controls there, making sure the right person can sign off the claim, making sure that the amount they actually submitted for is the amount they actually got paid. Those are an automated control. And things of all that nature.
I can touch a little bit on the risk analytics and the accounting valuation and analytics. Majority of our profession is in the business risk and technology risk, but however, we do have some niche market for risk analytics, and this is more of technical in a way that you would be given a lot of data to try to translate these abundant amount of data into the wording that business will be able to understand and be able to make sense of. When we come to, when we're given a lot of data from clients, that's when you guys come in and can run the program and read all the data and do your analyzing all the data to translate them into what we can understand and can analyze in the business way. And for accounting and valuation analytics, this is more of also a specialized group that we don't usually hire it as an entry level. We would like to hire people that have some sort of experience in this area because this is more of valuation of the securities, more of a complex derivatives, and company that have, for example, option hedges, all those high security, high risk that we need people that have some sort of experience coming in with some sort of some years of experience in their belts. And this is one of the great thing about Deloitte is that you can hire it as an entry and you can move around as you see fit and to figure out what you like to do as you learn more about what you like and what you don't like.
What kind of, when you're doing those analytics, what statistical software does Deloitte use to do that?
We have our in-house developed software or systems that we
I mean, is it like SPSS or SAS? Or
SAS. Yeah, you say SAS.
Right?
things like that. Yeah, but for the more complex ones, we have in-house.
All right, and then some of the things, kind of like we touched on already, like in the day, you're understanding the processes of the business, you're understanding the IT infrastructure and the controls around having meetings with different, like, you know, application heads and different managers, which is pretty cool. One thing is, what you really don't realize when you think, especially like in a consulting or accounting firm, is you have to deal with people all day. Like, you're just not stuck in a room just going on your computers, like, you know, going away in Excel or anything. You're dealing with, like, sometimes at 5 to 6 meetings a day. That's going from meeting to meeting to meeting. And a lot of times, you know, some people, like, they're taking time out of their day to talk to you. So, like, you really have to be personal. You have to be extremely nice. And it's a lot of fun meeting a lot of new people. And so that's one thing you really don't think about a lot when you look at a consulting firm. And one thing, apparently, you get a lunch break.
At the end of the day, it looks like that's at the end of the day.
Our day is that intense.
We thought you did all of that for lunch.
They're very interesting.
Can you go back?
The new piece there is building a relationship with the client and fellow team members. I mean, you're not going to be working with a firm maybe for the rest of your life. The relationship you build while you're working with the client might be beneficiary to you when you leave the firm. They may be your future clients, friends, employers, and things like that. So I'm a huge supporter of building relationships. So you get the opportunity when you're with Deloitte to meet different people, different clients, with different relationships, and your future career can stand from there. Okay.
And I don't know if you guys heard of this. It's about who you know and not really what you know, and that's the most important part.
So if I know nothing, I'm in good shape as long as
Well,
there's a lot of people.
You know, right?
What you know comes after who you know. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Oh, yes, this is me. Okay. Now, before I go into this, I'd like to address a question that comes up most times when we go out like this for a recruiting event. And the question is, I mean, somebody even asked me today, why did I choose Deloitte? So I'm just going to talk a little about this, then link it to what I do, or basically what we do, then make it more specific to SAP, not too much details, but just high level, then probably Kelly will come or we could show me recruitment tips and things like that. So why I chose Deloitte? I chose Deloitte because of 3 different reasons. Number 1, because of the options. We've touched it in some of the slides that we went through earlier. I chose Deloitte because there's a lot of options and exposure to projects and to client. Okay, if you are someone like me, right now, I think I know what I want to do in the near future. Maybe I think I want to be maybe an SAP consultant, and I get a job maybe with an auto manufacturing company. The experience that I get will be restricted to the auto world, will be restricted to auto manufacturing. But in a place like Deloitte, you get exposures to different industries, different spheres of life, and you can have a feel, and that will probably later inform your decision on where you want to build a career, or where you want to specialize in the future. So I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to have a feel or have an experience with different things, and by doing that, I would decide on what I want to eventually do in the future. I wrote some notes down so that I would go offline. Yeah. Fast learning curve, I think Andrew also touched on that. If I'm somebody who wants to learn in 3 weeks what it took maybe others 3 years to learn. So there's a lot. IT is evolving, changing every day, and there's a lot to learn. And I wanted an environment with a very deep learning curve, very fast-paced learning. I can learn a lot of things, and from there decide, or like I said earlier, specialize in a particular field and like that. And a lot provides such opportunity because you get to learn a lot. As you work on different clients, you could work. I've been with the firm for like a year and 1 week now, and I think I've worked with about 11 clients, in different fields. I've worked with a huge chemical manufacturing company. I've worked with, I'm currently working in an auto, I've worked with hospitality, I've worked with a power grid company, and 3 weeks from now I'm going to be working on a healthcare client. So all those comes with experience, comes with exposure. I get to learn different stuff. I get to learn the application, how they use the application, their business processes, And when I get such exposure, I could later now decide, okay, I want to specialize in healthcare, I want to specialize in manufacturing and retail, and develop and create a niche for myself. So that's one of the other reasons, one good reasons why I chose Deloitte. The other thing is, yeah.
So when you say you change so many domains, right?
Sorry?
When you say you change so many domains, or you take up every project within a span of 3 to 4 weeks, so you do work with so many domains, like right now healthcare and insurance, something like that. You do change domains, right? So do you in Deloitte people get opportunity down the line when they had experience of 8 to more than 8 years? They should stick to one domain, right?
Yeah.
To get a domain expertise.
Okay.
They can't do this all the time. So
okay, it's not like it's by choice. Okay, like I said, I'm not sure what I want to do, right? And I believe some of us here also are not very clear about what we want to do. I'm just here to the firm. I want to have the opportunity of having a feel of everything I can. Then later on, I can decide, okay, I love healthcare more than I love manufacturing. Oh, I thought auto manufacturing was cool, but I discovered that hospitality is the best. Then I now decide to focus on that field. And we have people here who are specializing in auto, we have healthcare, we have, so it all depends on your preference and what you do. Okay. Another reason why I chose Deloitte is because the people are cool, the guys are cool. Honestly, they're cool. Very cool. Not down to the head, laid back. I'm never afraid to make mistakes. And that's huge to me because I'm just starting my career in IT. And I was looking for an opportunity for a firm that would give me the opportunity of making mistakes and correcting me. We have huge, and we talk about it, huge mentorship program. People are always willing to help you. Guys are there to, have your back. They are willing to get in the rain and help you with your car when you have a flat.
I work with him, so. That would be me.
Send you text when it's your baby's birthday. Excuse me. A lot of cool stuff. We work as a family, and that's huge to me as an international. My extended families are like thousands of miles away, and I work with these guys I've spent the better part of my life with them, so they have to be, easygoing, well understanding, nice guy. So
Yeah. Since you touched international, there's a lot of international people in Deloitte. My class, when me and Haley started, I think at least 80% of our class is actually international, like in Detroit office alone. So we're very diverse, and I work with Benga right now on one client. 3 out of 5 in our group, 3 out of 6 actually, 3 out of 6 in our group is actually international from completely different countries. So we're very, very diverse, and we accept those differences, those culture differences. We know that they exist, and we really accept those in Deloitte.
cool. I met another person today that was from my country, my home country. You know, when you see yourself, you're so happy and all that. It means, to the locals, I probably might not be making sense, but for the internationals, it makes a lot of, it's a big deal. Honestly, a big deal. Yeah, and the third one, very selfish. Deloitte is arguably the largest professional service firm in the world. And it feels pretty cool to tell your friends, you know what, I'm working with the biggest firm in the world, you know? It's something to brag about. We have presence in over 150 countries. We have thousands of clients, scattered around different industry, doing different things. And we do different things for different clients. We have different groups within the firm that services all those clients in different ways. Bringing it home specifically to SAP, we have groups within Deloitte that does implementation for our clients. Clients saying, okay, we want to move from legacy system to an ERP system, we want to implement SAP. Can you guys come implement? Okay, another client says, oh, we already have SAP running, we want to increase the instances. We have 3 or 4 more instances. We have teams within the group, within the firm that does that. It could be they already have SAP running, they want to design the control to check, to fit their specific situation, to fit their business process. We also do that. So just name it. Almost everything in SAP right now we do in Deloitte. So from implementation, process improvement, design, deployment, everything, except for being a user. Being a direct user like data analyst or data entry class and things like that. So to my own group, what we do, we play more around controls and security and control. So I'm going to give like an overview, just run through it, not to bore you guys with too much details. So basically, this is like a guide or model to our recent control. So set objective, we identify the risks for the client, we measure, assess the risk, we assess the control in place. Control is just like a check, okay? Like you have password, in the system, just to prevent unauthorized persons going into the systems and things like that, just a check. Then we try to mitigate the risk, monitor the risk, control the risks, and assess the performance of, whatever system we're testing. I'm just going to skip this one. It's just more details. Yeah, so this is our focus when we test or when we work, when we design or when we implement controls. We want to ensure integrity, reliability, availability of information. We want to minimize loss. We don't want people's personal data to be stolen. Things around EPA, things around SOX, things around regulatory demands. So we either help to design or we either help to test if the control is operating effectively or we implement. So another thing, yeah, probably just move over. So the controls usually around this layers of IT, the application layer, within the environment and within the infrastructure. So Those three things: design, implementation, to check if there are those controls of security that is in place are operating effectively. So we could design the security, we could implement, or we could test to see if they're operating effectively around the application. A good example is an SAP. The database, Unix, host, network, and user. That's another pretty cool thing. When I joined the firm, all I knew was SAP. I've gone through a lot of technical trainings right now, so I do tests around infrastructure, around Unix, around different database. I do work with the mainframe, and we work with Oracle, we work with PeopleSoft, with QAD. So you get enough exposure even to other applications, to other infrastructures, or to other IT terms or IT areas you're not used to. Okay. So basically, behind the scene, end users navigate through layers of security to reach SAP application. We work with the security team, to handle all, security-related activities. Let's take operational effectiveness as an example. So, the firm wants to know that all the users within the system, is authorized to be having access to the system. We could also go a bit deeper and say, okay, what do they have access to within the system? Do you have access to create tables, to edit tables, or to modify or things like that? So we go in, run our scripts, print our report, and check. Say, okay, we have 10 users. These 10 users have privileged access. They're not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to do that. What they're doing, or everything looks good. So
It's a privilege access. Or operating effectiveness, what is that? Can you?
Yeah, so a design, I know it's too much information, I'm just trying to give it. A design, a control is in place. And you want to find out if that control is working effectively. So the school says for you to be able to log into your system, to their system, you need to have a complex password setting. Complex password setting, you have to have it has to be case sensitive, it has to have numerics, that's right, things like that. So that's the standard. Okay. So the IT guys design that into their system, and we the students will log into the system obeying the standard. So but the school wants to ensure that that standard, that law, that policy is working effectively. So they bring the Lord in and say, Lord, can you help us check to see if this is working effectively? So that is
In essence, you validate their internal controls.
Yes, exactly.
Right, that's basically what we do. And to make it simpler, I know I see a lot of blank faces here. So to make it simpler, I have an example that my manager always uses. So basically you see a door, right? And then you, before the door is in place, you look at the door, you draw the door on a piece of paper. That would be the design. How is the control design? It's drawn on a paper, the door should be like this, it should operate this way, that's design. And then 2 weeks later, after the door is designed, 2 weeks later you come to that spot where the door is supposed to be at. You look at it, oh, look, the door is actually in place. It's not on the paper anymore, it's a door, right? Alright, so, and then after that, alright, so it's designed correctly. It was implemented, it's there, but is it working now? Does it open or close? Does it, does it do what it's supposed to do? And we check it. We open the door and close the door and say, oh, it is operating effectively. That's basically what we do, but on the IT layers. So we design a password control. It's supposed to have this many characters. It's supposed to have this complexity and whatnot. And then we test that based on the policy of each company. So it differs on each client that we have. That's it.
And you have control over access to that door too.
Yes, that would be, to take a step further, yes, that would be the more complicated way. Yep.
So you actually go in and decide and audit who has access to what transaction codes.
Exactly.
And
How you're supposed to have it.
For all of the students in here, know that this is the only place on earth you'll ever have SAP all and SAP UX.
Yes. Or a sandbox. That's the only other place. A sandbox will be the other place.
Okay. So this is examples of things that we do, examples of SAP project that we work, like pre and post implementation security control assessments. The company is done with implementing SAP, they go live, we come in to check if everything was implemented or configured the way it's supposed to be. If it fits exactly into what they had, the blueprint or what the firm, if it works exactly with the company's business processes. We do security design, configuration and implementation, business process risk assessment, business process control framework, process and internal control improvement, data cleansing priority implementation. So you're done with your implementation, data load, you go in and clean up the data to ensure that what you're loading into your production environment is real data and you don't want to cause any damage or introduce foreign data into your system. Data conversion testing during SAP implementation, IT SOX, SAP control design and testing. A lot of information.
Question?
Okay.
So for the 7 actually control, the SAP control last one,
Yeah.
design and testing. I just wonder how you guys help the clients to do the design and then the testing. Is that cooperate with accounting departments, like you have to talk to them and then design, or they will be basically become tell you guys what they should be designed.
Wait, so you're asking how is the control design? Is it
Yeah,
around the
like,
SAP?
how you help the clients to do
How
this.
we help the client.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two sides of this. So either we help the client build the control, so control is in place. So either we're the consulting company that helps the client build the control. So we're working hands in hand with their IT security team, the accounting team, and also keep in mind that we have a Sarbanes-Oxley standards behind it. So those are the 3 items that that we use to help the client build the control. But once the control is in place, Deloitte also has a service where, okay, we implemented this one control in SAP. Why don't you, as the auditing firm, why don't you come in and why don't you check this against the policy that we have? Why don't you check this and see if they're in line with the policy, whether they're under the Sarbanes-Oxley or not, and that's what we do as well. So it depends really. Your question can go from both ways.
So it's going to be like 2 different parties helping the client. But as she said, maybe you're just working for the client, helping them deliver SAP security, and then there's another team from Deloitte that goes into the client place and helps them figure out that they're actually configured there.
Were you actually auditing the security? Are you using some kind of software, or people just directly design all this knowledge or something?
We have multiple service lines, if that's what you're asking. So we have a cyber risk that Kelly mentioned earlier. They're more the implementation team. So they go in there and help the client behind. So they work kind of along with the client. Just think of it like I'm working with this group of client people and I'm helping them build the control, right? And there's also the other side. If they hire Deloitte to see whether or not the control is working properly, basically, we go in there, we have Deloitte standard, we have Sarbanes-Oxley, and we also have client's policy that they have that we can test against that to see if the controls is working properly or not. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Very good question.
Was your question, did you ask does Deloitte has any specific tools that we use?
Yeah, also.
Yes, we do. Deloitte has our proprietary tools that we use, and there's a kind of scripts too, SAP scripts that we have the client run on so that we can get the security.
So you're not using third-party software or something?
No, Deloitte has
That's
our
a Deloitte
proprietary
built.
tools.
I see. Thank you.
I'm sure you guys are used to this if you're taking SAP classes, so some of the modules you do here. The main difference here is while we're here in school, we're introduced to the different modules and we're showed how the different pieces in SAP work together, how they're integrated. In the industry, you get to pick different fields you want to work on, maybe deployments, maybe what I do, IT audit around SAP, maybe like I mentioned earlier, data entry clerk as system users, and so it all depends, So just have in mind that you could be working, if you're working around implementation, you'll be working specifically on a different modules or combination of modules. But what we do, we kind of touch, the different models. And so we're not specializing on aspects or in a model in SAP. So we touch different models, depends on what the project is about. Okay. More information about controls. So examples of controls, within. I know if you're familiar with SAP configuration, then like the three-way match within order to cache cycle. So that's one simple control. Two more. Yeah. So you want to go about relationships?
Yep. All right. I think this is the part that you guys are waiting this whole time, right? All right. So basically, this is just like, in a nutshell, this is what you should do for recruiting preparation. So basically, you have to highlight your academic performance, work experience, and extracurricular activities. Those are very important. Those are the three things that we look at as a recruiter. What's your GPA, and then what's your work experience, and then if you're a president in something or if you're a general member in something, we do look at those. Those are very important. And then you also have to demonstrate leadership potential. So in Deloitte, I know we start as an entry level, but in progress, as you're in Deloitte for a longer amount of time, we see if you have the potential to be a leader or not. That's kind of a thing that we work towards. And also, if you volunteer a lot, that's also really, really good for your resume. So make sure you include that on your resume. And then if your GPA is 3.0 or above, make sure that you include that on your resume. I think Deloitte's 3.2 or above. 3.2 or above is for Deloitte internally. So. And also, contact information, please update those. I know you guys live in apartments around here. So if you live in an apartment and you have a permanent address, make sure you put both address, because if we send something to your apartment but turn out again, at that time you already moved out of the apartment, then that would be kind of bad for your side. You're not gonna get, if you get a number, you're not gonna know until I don't know when. So, and then keep it no more than 1 page in length. So we take a flash to look at your resume, basically. If you have more than 1 page, we typically don't flip the resume. So that's just like an internal tip. So if it's 1 page, and then we can just go up and down, and then we can see what's in the resume.
Like, for instance, if you have more experience or more things, is that possible to put to this?
Yes. The tip that I was given by someone a long time ago is if you want 2 pages, make sure you have 2 full pages, not 1.5. That's basically. Do you guys have any other?
It's still perfectly fine. Obviously, if you have a lot of experience, make sure that you take credit for your experience in your resume.
And put the most important information up front. So when I hear the resume.
If they need more information, they will ask you.
Yes, most definitely. Hank?
Okay, so how are you preparing for the process of interviewing?
Yes.
So while you go through the resume process, I would suggest at Central we have the career services that can proofread your resume for you, help you organize it to make sure that your strengths stand out, and also it's good to point out your weaknesses, but also follow up with what you're doing to improve those weaknesses. So going through this interviewing process, think about what set you apart from other candidates. Everybody's gonna have the degree from CMU, the same basic background, and you go to class and you absorb those information. But what set you aside is what you do besides school, and that is what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you're doing to improve those weaknesses. Also, figure out what exactly you're looking for. You can't come to us and say, what do you have to offer? And then we ask you, so what are you looking for? Audit, advisory, or tax? And you say, well, whatever you have to give me. That's not enough. That's not good for us, because we want to make sure we place you into the area that you most would fit the best, and then would be also most beneficial for you. So please figure out what area you're interested in, what location. We have, in Michigan, we have 3 locations, Midland, Grand Rapids, and Detroit. And
advisory is only Detroit and Rapids.
only Detroit. We only hire advisory in Detroit area. but you get to travel to Grand Rapids or other locations too, with however client you're at. And also work with. I know you chose a major. It's also good to figure out why you choose audit because you are in accounting, or you choose advisory because you're in IT. I mean, you can also switch back and forth as you come in and as you figure out what you like most, but figure out exactly what fits most for what you were going to school for. I already touched about location, and also use your professors as good resources for you. Professors know us, we come here all the time, and they can be a good bridge for you, give you recommendation letters, and use your friends, whoever's already been, for example, someone already been with Deloitte, use them to ask them for their experience. I mean, it could be, Deloitte could be good for them, but it might not be for you. We want to be as a mutual beneficial for two sides. We want you to choose us as well as we choose you.
And another addition to that, I think Career Services still has the mock interview. That would be a very good opportunity for you to practice, like, you know, what you're gonna answer to certain questions that we typically ask during an interview. So I found that very helpful.
You know, that's a real good point. I teach business communications, and so this semester I have 80% of my students are transfer students. And so I have second semester sophomores, even has some first semester juniors in it. We require a mock interview in that class. And the next semester I'll have primarily second semester freshmen. Graduate students in here probably have not ever done a mock interview, and you can avail yourself of that through the Career Services office. Golden is right across the mall here, to the right. Walk into Career Services, go online, see what's being offered. You can participate in that. You can get assistance, guidance, counseling, etc. on your resume. Certainly, you know, mock interview can be something you can get experience with, because they will critique you. You spend a half an hour in the interview and a half an hour as a follow-up where you evaluate your participation in it, your handshake, the eye contact, your wearing apparel. It's a full-blown interview, just like the real thing, just like walking into Deloitte tomorrow with a scheduled interview. Your mock interview is handled the same way. They want your resume at least 24 hours in advance, because they're going to use your resume to ask you questions. So it's a great experience. If you've not done that, make your mistakes here, not in front of Deloitte, and waste your time.
You're not going to give it another chance because you messed up in your interview.
Your trust me interview, it's a huge part of you getting the job, and it's something entirely different. You know, we have all passed through this process. We tend to show that side. It's something entirely different. It's really a class on its own. I've been involved in recruiting for like 2 years now, and it saddens my heart most times when you see a very smart, candidate miss a job opportunity because the interview skills is zero. A lot of times we lose a lot of people because they don't know how to sell or to present what they know and what they have. So please take these things very, very serious. It's a course. It's a 3-unit course you need to focus on.
A website that you graduate students could avail yourself as well is collegegrad.com. Collegegrad.com. There's a number of 1-minute vignettes in there talking about everything. Your resume, parts of your resume. I'm a big advocate of a summary. I'm a big advocate of an objective at the top of your resume. They shouldn't have to try to figure out what you want to do. You need to be able to put that at the top of your resume, and along with a number of other issues. And I've counseled some of you that are sitting in here, right, Bruno? On resume. So nothing spectacular in my office that helps. It's really you doing your homework and figuring out how do I best put my profile in front of people. And collegegrad.com is a great quality information center, as well as the Career Services office. You graduate students, avail yourself of that.
And the best piece of advice I could give you from the interview, which helped me a lot when I was going through this process, is before each interview, I'd make sure I had 3 questions to ask the client, and I'd make sure, I'm not the client now, to ask the company, and I always make sure it wasn't just like, oh, what do you do, or oh, what's your favorite project. I would look at actually what their like pillars were, something they have to strive to work for. I'm like, well, how, like one was leadership, and I was like, well, CMU has a leadership program here, leadership is something that CMU was really high on. If I go and work for this company, how will you continue to develop my leadership skills? And the interviewer really took a step back and like they had no idea how to answer. So if you actually can go into that mode, like do that like work, go on the website, figure out what the company is about, and show you're gonna put the time into an interview. You're gonna show you can put the time into the job.
One of the things that you have to keep in mind, and many of you don't think of it this way, but that interview is a two-way interview. Not only are they interviewing you to see whether or not they want you, you're also interviewing them to see whether you want to go to work there. So you need to use that time that you have and the few questions you have to ferret out whether or not that's the kind of company that you want to work for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that is so important. I know people walk out of there thinking, oh, I really hope they pick me, but it is a two-way street. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I actually teach an interview class at Michigan State, and the biggest thing we talk about, well, there's 3 things. One of the most common things we hear back from interviewers is they didn't feel people listened, which I think is very unique because I think you are so in tune to what's going on there, but I know that nerves get into play. So if you ever are in an interview and you feel you may not exactly understand what they're asking you, it is okay to rephrase the question or ask for them to repeat it. The worst thing in the world is to answer what you think they're asking you and then be completely off task. So don't worry about, saying, oh, are you asking me to give you a time that I blah, blah, blah. And behavioral questions are a really big thing right now. Our whole interview is behavioral-based questions, so a little secret there. No, it's not, but if you have the time, I would definitely Google behavioral-based questions, practice them with your friends. They are incredibly awkward. They are worded very awkwardly. And quite frankly, when you are interviewing, your interviewer may be reading that question for the very first time, so they may not even realize how it comes off to you. So speak up. Don't say, I have no idea what they're asking. I'll just give them this example. Oh, Lord, don't do that. So if you do not understand, please ask. And I know for Deloitte, we do our interviews online now, and so they hit this button and it populates 3 different behavioral questions to ask. So they really are reading them for the very first time. Make sure you are asking and engaged. And the other comment I wanted to add is we've done a few interviews already and we've had multiple career fairs, and I know you have yours tomorrow. Are most people going to that? Yes. Good. Okay, great. Make sure when you introduce yourself that you do tell us, I want audit, I want tax, I want advisory. And in an interview especially, I talk to all the big 4 recruiters and interviewers. We have a big meeting every year. And they always say, well, why do you want audit? Well, I want audit because, I really like working in a client. Well, that's great. I mean, and I'm sure 400 other people will tell us that's why they like it. But think about why your skills align to why you want it. So I like audit because I think I have really great interpersonal communication, and I would work really well at a client every day. I like helping people, and I like being on a client. It takes saying I like audit because I like being on clients to a whole other level. It will really separate you. I can promise that. It does go the extra mile. So if you have questions, I'm happy to talk about it. But I can go on interviews for hours. I love teaching about it. But any questions?
I might add one of the behavioral questions that students are hearing this, and maybe some of them aren't familiar with behavioral. You might take one to do an example. When I teach that in my class, I talk about the BAR method. In other words, background, action, result. So introduce the background to this event or situation. A behavioral one might be, many of you may have experienced a difficult situation in a team project. Can you tell me about that? So that's an open-ended behavioral, right? And then, okay, background on that experience where you had a difficult time in a team project. What action did you take in your team dealing with the non-performance of one of the people or whatever it might have been, and then results, how did it end up? And I go with the bar method, but I go LL after it. You listening? Lessons learned. If you can tack that on the end of it and say, here's what I've learned from that experience. It's great because recruiters love to hear that, because I've taken this experience and I've got a lesson learned from it, and my gosh, it's not going to happen a second time to me. I'm going to make sure that this is taken care of on the front end when I'm in a team project, that we get our positions well defined or whatever it might be. Lessons learned is a great way, but it's BAR LL, okay? It's a great acronym, and it's one to exploit in a recruiting
No, that's exceptional. I like that LL, because then it makes sure that, I'm sure it helps you make sure that you went over everything you wanted to tell them as well. Because your mind is racing and wondering if you talked about everything, and that's a great way to recap. It's a great idea.
Didn't need to take it.
We should just wrap up here and take
Hold
questions.
on, we have a couple more slides.
Oh,
That's it. So basically, this is just how we communicate with us, the recruiters. Basically, keep it professional. It's better to be more formal than just saying, hey, how's it going, or whatever, in that language. And then email, always review, because sometimes when you read it for the first time, it sounds fine, but then, 5 minutes later, you read it, oh, this is not really appropriate, and you can revise it then before it gets to the recruiter. And then this is how we apply for a career in Deloitte.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. go
So
ahead.
before you change that communication aspect, since we're talking about communication right here, I've been here for like 1 year and 3 months. And all the while, I have had people advising me in their own aspect. When you are talking to someone in the United States, speak the way you speak. We are here, we have Chinese here, Africans, different people having different accents.
Yep.
Now, when you talk about accents, for some reason, maybe people don't hear me very well, or they don't want to hear, or they want me to speak like them, right? Yeah, but when you're talking about interview, I'm coming to talk to you. I have not been in the United States all I was born. This is my first year and all that. Now, professionally, do you expect me to go and learn how to talk like an American or an accent, or do you expect me to talk the way I
That
talk?
is my biggest P. Be you. We're interviewing you. We
Thank
want
you.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can go on a tangent about that one. But, we want you, right, for what you bring to the table. Yes.
For example, look at us. None of us are from the same country,
Exactly.
none of us.
I can beg you from the same place. I never had any issues communicating with the recruiter. The best thing is just being you.
Because even when you join the company, you're still going to be
Yeah,
working
exactly.
with a wide variety of people. So you just can't pick for a day, and then for the rest
Yeah.
of the life at Deloitte, you can be just activists to make sure that
Yeah.
I can see your passion.
No, yeah, sorry. I mean, we are in a global world. To pretend that we are not is a.
Yeah, do you guys, you talk a lot about training programs for already in Deloitte. Do you guys have training programs for recent grads? Or for recent hires, I'm sorry. And then also, you said something about a class. Is there certain starting times?
Yes, so, well, it depends. So each year is
Can I repeat the question? Repeat the question.
Oh, so basically she's asking that, do we have training for the recent hires, and what is class? When I mentioned class, like our class, how many start in one class, what does that mean? So, do you want to take that?
Sure, yeah. So every new hire goes to DU, Deloitte University, in the first 90 days that they start with us. You probably will go twice, to be completely honest with you. So generally, you will start in Chicago. You guys start in Chicago, right?
Yep.
So say you start like this Monday, right? So your first week, you're in Chicago for the entire week. You do a welcome to Deloitte, and you get to learn all about Deloitte. Are you into your time, which is probably the pain in everyone's back end. You get to learn more about our culture, how we interact, more about Deloitte Net, and you will learn about your benefits. So just be very well versed in, how you get around with Deloitte. Second week, you go to Deloitte University and learn a lot about your functions. So you will go with advisory or tax or with audit. Everybody will go together that started on, say, that 9/14 start date, but you will be part of your specific class. It's an amazing training. They spend so much time developing it. You will have a great time. You'll meet people from all over. When you come back, you will dive into a client, not like feet first yet. You still have some trainings to accomplish and get done that they presented to you at Welcome to Deloitte and whatnot, but that's kind of the first 3 weeks. So you have a lot of check-ins. You'll meet your counselor and they'll start checking in with you. You have a OBA, an onboarding advisor, that helps you with everything you really need to know. Where to park, what do I wear, what do I do here? So there's a lot involved in getting you ramped up. And we really do not just send you out to go on your own either. I mean, you will be supported and you'll be with people, and then a few months later, you'll probably be back at DU doing another training, because we want to keep learning. We are nothing if we're not learning, so that's really important to us. Did I answer it okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, any other questions before we move to how to apply to Deloitte? All right, so there are 2 things that you have to do when you apply to Deloitte. You have to apply on Deloitte website and also on the school website. So make sure you do both, right, Kelly? You want everybody to do both of
And I
them?
think the deadline is midnight tomorrow.
23rd is the drop date.
Yep. Yep. And then all candidates must fill online to be considered as candidate. Yep. And then minimum GPA is 3.3. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. 3.3 now. And you need to know, like what we mentioned, you need to know the service line, the location. It's great if you can say, I want to be in Detroit. It's great if you can say that. It just shows that you've researched our offices and that you know exactly what you want. And then position and 4, I believe if your audit is required to have the 150-hour plan if applicable. So
And tax.
And tax, audit and tax. Yep.
And just a quick tip there to add, it's not just Deloitte, any company that you're going to go for to attend to market, make sure that you research a little bit on the company rather than just going up to the career saying like, oh, what jobs you got, what do you want us to do? So just make sure you do a little research in the company that you want to go and talk to.
Yeah, we want to know that you put an effort into trying to join our company.
People who have a semester left in school, it doesn't matter undergrad or grad, do we still apply? Do you want us to still apply, go ahead and apply, or do you want us to wait until we graduate?
So you graduate May 2015?
Right.
Yeah, apply now.
Okay.
So then you would apply for, say you want advisory full-time, summer, fall 2015.
Okay.
And I might add, the credentials ought to reflect 2015. So if you're taking 3 SAP classes, or you're doing Term 10 next May, make sure that they know that. You don't want to hide that and say, well, I'll tell them that later. No, get that credentialing on your paper saying, this is what will be done on my behalf. I'm taking these classes to be taken, or I'm doing Term 10.
Yeah, that's a great point. Sometimes we do not see that you have accounting information or the SAP. I love seeing that in your education, because that's part of your education, and it makes it easier to talk to you guys about that.
You got to flagship that SAP stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a differentiator right off the bat. That's important. And then so internships as well. This is the first year we have winter internships for advisory. We've always had winter internships for tax and audit, but I'm really excited we have winter internships. It's going to show you a different flavor for the busy season and what we do in advisory. So when you apply online, though, you will apply if you're doing an internship for winter or summer. We found in the past if we say, apply for winter, but you could really do summer, but you're only evaluated for winter, that's not really fair. So we do everything, and then we'll ask you what works best for you.
All right, these are the key dates, so I trust you can just, read it and take a note of it and make sure that you attend these if you're interested. And our recruiter is Kelly, which is right here. That's her email address. If you have any questions about recruiting, she would be a great resource. And also, if you want to research more about us, Deloitte.com is always available to know more about what Deloitte does. And if you want to make a decision, is Deloitte right for you? That's the most important part, because happier people are better. If you know that's what you want to do, you come to us, that's great.
And Deloitte's sponsoring the team for ERP Sim.
Yes.
We did. And I think I'm going to be back up here too. I was here last year, and I'm sure I'm happy.
Questions?
So a lot of people joined this group to pursue their TERP 10. So coming at it from two perspectives. So as someone who has been with the company, kind of a new hire and is kind of going out, and as someone who's doing recruiting and the hiring process, what kind of things that you've learned either through being part of this group or going through TERP 10 that have kind of helped you kind of right off the bat? And what kind of things do you look at on a resume, like things like TERP 10 that you go, okay, this is definitely like something that I at least want to, come in and meet this person?
Speaking from a new hire, you'd be surprised going into a meeting with like all these recruits from Michigan, Michigan State, and they don't know what SAP is. Right there. You're talking to a partner who's like in charge of implementing SAP, and you can have a conversation. And like everybody in this room should have a leg up at everybody in Michigan State. Like, but they, I don't know. I have a pick at Michigan State. I don't like all the people we hired. There's like 2 people from Central. So like, I just really no reason why, if you guys prepare for an interview, why you shouldn't have a leg up in any of those major schools.
Absolutely.
Agreed. No, I can tell you right now, actually, I'm sorting through thousands of resumes. I kid you not, you should see my hotel room right now. And some of the first things I look at are GPA and certifications. Though, for me, that's what really pops out at me, because not only does it mean you have the knowledge of it, but you actually took the time to gain the knowledge, get involved in something, and that's really important. That separates you from just about a lot of other people. And then, the next challenge is, can you talk about it, right? So when we meet you, what do you have to say about what you learned and what you can do? But absolutely, put that on there and be proud of it. And tell me in a career fair. I'm happy to know that. And it's important that you find the key things that differentiate you right off the bat. Because career fairs are hectic and they're busy, and you really only have about 30 seconds to talk. Or at least for 30 seconds to really get something meaningful out, right? So get that out there. That is a huge differentiator. And in the work we do, it's so important. SAP is growing, and they're pulling people that have that SAP knowledge that want to do that, because we do not have a whole lot of people in that. So it's a special thing.
So just imagine for a second, with all those resumes coming in, and you have at the top of your resume your objective that includes SAP in it, and you have a summary with 4 bullet points, and 2 of them relate to SAP. One, you're naming SAP as a part of your TERP 10 certification experience, and you list that you've taken 5 classes that are supported with SAP, and you received awards of recognition. I mean, is that not going to catch her attention? So if you want to know more about how that summary is set up and what it looks like, look at collegegrad.com. They advocate that you put a summary at the top. You'll see how it's profiled, and it's a stop and skip reading. When somebody's screening a resume, they can quickly see within seconds the value you are bringing to the table in 2 or 3 or 4 bullet points. One of them that was one of my examples is a 4th bullet point: fluent in English, Spanish, and Arabic. I mean, would that not stand out to somebody along with the things that are above it that say SAP? And so you stop and think about that, otherwise it's hidden. It could be hidden at the bottom of the resume, and that's where we first found it. It's like, no, keep this up in front.
I said something earlier about a recent grad increase early. Beyond the top 10 certification getting you the interview, or getting you the interview, even when you start working on your progress, it separates you. Chris doing from a few weeks, and is going on an international travel because of his top 10 certification. He's working on an SAP project, because of his SAP certification. Top 10 certificate. So the value is immeasurable.
Yeah, I know another, also new hire. She's been going to Germany, and then now she's going to Spain for probably the same project, but because of her Spanish. So after talking about today, we're talking about the language, multiple languages, and that's very helpful. And you never know when it comes to meet, and then when it comes to it, grab it, and then you get to go so far.
So we do prefer
international.
I have a question. I think most of us here are IS majors, about the SAP systems. And what if do we have to have the CPA plan, or do we have to understand what is CPA, these kind of things? And what if the recruiters ask us, our questions like, do we have a CPA plan in future, these kind of things? If we just say, no, we are IS major, do you think that would affect our,
No.
No, and knowing that you don't need that makes all the difference, right? So if you are aware of that, and you're like, well, actually, no, I'm going an advisory track, there you go.